Alright guys, welcome to day 2 of the Bootcamp 2.0. So today is going to be primarily about the product research methods, and I'm going to try to give you some of the criteria sauce, but I would rather have a separate day for the criteria. So perhaps I'm going to do like a mix where today, because obviously you cannot research for a product without knowing what to look for. So this is hopefully going to be all you need for Q4, and that's the aim actually. We're doing this in preparation for Q4. So the first thing we want to look for in a product is going to be something that's not cheap looking. And I see this especially today, like the necessity of this option is very important, especially today because there's so much competition, especially with AI, and AI could make a bad looking product look really good, but that's why you need to make sure that it's gonna, match the marketing so that you don't get a lot of chargebacks and so on. So cheap looking products or even low perceived value products, these we want to cancel them, okay? So whatever you see which may cost like $15 to $20, I've seen a few products here and there around this margin or this price, like the wand. You may have seen this wand. We've seen different products as well, like the poo last year. Now, when you compare the poo to this wand is way better because it actually has some sort of value, paying with your credit. But poo, on the other hand, had no value. So these are, a few examples of products which I would never run. And especially because we're doing AI plus filming, so we really don't need to be doing these products anymore. On the other hand, we need to be looking for products which at least has some sort of value. So if it wasn't for, I'll give you an example by the way, if it wasn't for the value, then problem solving or emotion. So there's different ways of picking a product, okay? So either having a high perceived value or problem solving aspect to it, or emotion. So it having sentimental value to the customer. And I'm gonna actually give you examples here. So high perceived value, obviously the resin lamp. This is the primary example. And we've seen people make multiple six figures with this. This is the best example, guys. If you haven't seen this product, all you need to do is go on your burn account, scroll a bit, you're gonna see this eventually. The reason why this is perfect of an example is because the fact it was a winner made people discover new angles or new variants of it. And this is not something new. This is something which personally I've been doing for a while and I've been talking about for a while. When you see something win, you go to the supplier, you tell them, okay, I want a new variant. Maybe they already have something they're cooking, they're working on. But if they don't, then you could also do custom products, but that's more advanced. The point is, oftentimes when something is really hot, like a product is actually on high demand, 9 out of 10 times you're gonna find out that the main supplier at least is already working on a new variant. So you could be one of the first people to get your hands on this product. And even during the process where they're making it, you could be marketing the product. So that's the beauty of it. So we've seen the resin lamp in many different shapes and forms. We've seen it literally in different, we've seen it horizontal, we've seen it vertical, even the things inside, we've seen it in different forms. Lord of the Rings, Toothless, even Michael Jackson and so on. I don't know. I haven't really run the product, but I actually think some of the marketing aspects they did were interesting because they started with having an avatar. And then that one got a lot of hate, obviously, because it's, considered black hat marketing. So what they eventually did was they did POV marketing for the product. And surprisingly, that one looked more creative or realistic. So they're, obviously they're both considered unethical because of how they angle or they put the lens on the marketing. They put it as people are, this is their business, which is failing. Now, we've reached a point where you don't even know what is ethical and unethical anymore because we've seen people push it really far. But I'm just saying that in my opinion, POV is always going to be better than having an avatar, because in terms of ethics, obviously, if you don't care about ethics, then an avatar actually has an upper advantage of attracting the right audience. So literally, you could curate an avatar that will make the algorithm get you the right audience, which is crazy. So you need to decide what you want to go for. But that was a bit of an extension on the high perceived value products. Next one is going to be problem solving. Again, we've seen the red light therapy mask, and these in particular are a bit sketchy because you don't even know if they work as 100%. So marketing these sort of products is a bit of a risky one, because you need to make sure, first of all, it does what it claims to do. I've seen a lot of people do the before and after, which is something, by the way, you could never have done on Facebook ads. So this has to be the main reason why a lot of people in the paid ads community have been shifting to organic. I've personally been getting a lot of DMs from people who wanted to learn organic from the paid ad community for this main reason, because you get a lot of traction for free for products where you could never run them on paid ads. Now, again, I don't know about this product in particular, if it's good to market. You need to make sure that it actually does the job. And yeah, with your marketing, try to be realistic with it, because not only will it save you hassles in the future, but also it's going to be, up to the expectation, so people won't be deceived by it. But yeah, again, this is one of the products which usually would never be seen in organic unless it's like a big brand which does hybrid approach. Nowadays, you can see literally 18 years old running this product from their laptop. They don't even have the product. They're just marketing it. And we've seen multiple people made multiple six figures with this. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, though. This has opened up there's like a bridge now between paid ads and organic. Usually, problem-solving products would only be seen in paid ads for this reason. And by the way, they do demand better copywriting on the website to actually explain what it does, and it does need social proof. So this has, in my opinion, this has increased the bar in terms of the standard of what it takes to make it work today versus back in the days. A few years ago, everyone was doing pump and dump, gimmicky products and so on. Nowadays, you could run like proper 7-figure products. This is considered a 7-figure product in paid ads world. You could run it in the organic space, and that would demand a proper website, like a branded website. And that's what I like. So if you want to go for this route, make sure that you actually focus on your copy, focus on the trust, make sure it actually does what it does, and get like genuine, before and after, maybe from the supplier that actually has verified reviews of the product. That will help you out a lot. Next point is going to be emotion products. Now, this can be divided into two. There's products that actually are for remembering someone, and these are considered like extremely emotion products. We've seen this is like a really old product. You could put, picture of your dog or cat or whatever, and it's like a screen, so it remembers it. Whenever you click on it, it just shows you this video. Now, this is considered a hyper emotional product, and in my opinion, this is like the one of the basic ways of running an emotion product. Is like it's directly considered as an emotion product. But actually, what I want to focus on here is other forms of emotion. So this is actually one of the most optimized aspects of emotion, which mega businesses use to print, which is nostalgia. All of the TV shows you've seen when you were young, there's merch which is selling these, they're relying on these TV shows to sell the same audience 10, 20, 30 years later. So this is a real market, and that's why we've seen this grow a lot. I would say 90% of, like, if you were to blindfoldedly pick a product today as a winning product, I would say 7 out of 10 times it has this aspect to it, which is passionate niche. So it has a passionate niche of a group of people which are very passionate about this topic or this product. So the origin of this passion is nostalgia itself. If not, if it was just like a current trend, that's also good. You know, if a new movie comes out, people often run products which are linked to that movie. But in my opinion, nostalgia is even better, because that's like the core, the essence of that emotion, where people get a warmth of a feeling, which makes them actually want to buy. So these are a few example like factors you want to look for in a product when you want to make sure that it has some sort of emotion. Again, the resin lamp here, it was relying on this emotion. Like every single resin lamp had, you know, something, either how to train your dragon or something, you know. That's why people would buy it. Otherwise, if it's just a generic dragon inside, obviously it's cool, but there is no trigger. This emotion is the trigger to make people buy. So it's really important to have. So that was a longer one, but this is important. Number 2 is going to be flexibility of marketing. Now, this has always been a factor in the criteria, but I would say today, perhaps it's not as important if you want to be the first at running something. Okay, I'll give you like the exceptions. So if you want to run a product where it has no flexibility in terms of angles, I need to clarify this is regarding angles. For example, the resin lamp. You could only run it for Lord of the Rings if you get this variant. So at that point, the only thing you can do is either test new formats. Okay, so if everyone's doing 3, 2, 1 and then they show the product, you do something else, something better. The other option is to just completely change the country, so, or the language. So everyone's doing US, you do German, and so on. But you know, oftentimes just by following the first point I mentioned here, so we're gonna actually divide it into 2. The format is actually gonna do the heavy lifting, because you could actually do it for couples. So you sell it as a product for couples when everyone's running it, you know, to show the crafting, which is oftentimes just to, you know, give this pity emotion to customers, like, oh, he's working hard, let me buy it just to support him. Instead, you could actually put the aim towards gifting it to your partner. Another one, as I mentioned, is just the country, the market. But this is like very, you know, nothing new. This is very old school. Another way of running the angles is obviously when the product is one thing, but it can be marketed to many different angles, different audiences, like the camera. So you buy it once, or you market it as one product, but you could actually, you know, have 5 different accounts, and each account has a different target audience. One of them is for the car niche, next is for horse riding, next is going to be for barbers, truck drivers, and then people who like to ski, and so on. This way, you could actually build 5 different pages and then see whatever works best, and that way you could double down on whatever works best. So this is also like a, you know, advanced approach, but you could also do it differently, where you just run one of them, and if it doesn't work, you jump to the next one, and then to the next one, until one of them works. This is like the basic rule of saturation of the purple ocean. So this is your market. So you have the red ocean, and then the blue ocean. Blue is untapped. This is like everyone's dream. And by the way, this is very deceiving. If you hear someone talking about untapped products, it's very deceiving, because it creates a lot of FOMO of like running for that untapped product. But in reality, you shouldn't be scared of going into a saturated market. One of the main reasons is because this is actually contradicting your main goal as an organic marketer. If you plan to make sales, you need to go viral. And if you go viral, the whole community would know about your product. Okay, there's no doubt about that. So this is coming from my own experience. There's many times where I wanted to be the first, and I realized I'm limiting my own reach by trying to, you know, limit my marketing to a certain thing. But if I just follow what's working, what's trending, and if my real goal is just to go viral, then who cares? Everyone's gonna know about your product. So it's just part of the game. But here's what you could do. You could carve out your own section of the market. So everyone's doing, this is the 99%. So this is the saturated part of the market. You carve out your section of it. So everyone's doing car niche, you do horse riding. And that way, although you're running the same product, you actually destroy everyone because you literally get a fresh, untapped audience. So people that have been utilizing this information and have been doing great the last year. Now, one thing I mentioned regarding the untapped products, there's a few exceptions where untapped is possible, but this is like different. This is more advanced. So you could, just like I mentioned with the resin lamp, if you reach out to the supplier and he truly doesn't have any new variants coming out, you could commission one. You could ask, make me for this niche. I'm sure it's going to work. He's obviously going to ask you for upfront payment. So that's why it's more advanced. But if you're willing to take the risk and, start marketing, going viral, and you know for a fact this market is going to work, then you can take the risk. So it could be whatever MOQ, and that way you can actually run an untapped product. So it really just depends of whether you have capital to take such risk or not. Next point is going to be, these two are the most important, but we're going to add a third one. So, okay, the third one has to be about brandability. Is this a product you could actually take long term and make a brand of or not? Because this is actually going to make it way more obvious for you what product to pick or not. And I'll tell you one thing, Resin Lamp, in my opinion, if people started running their pages the right way as a brand, they could have been running the product to this day. But the fact they started their accounts, like their marketing, such a black hat way, they low-key have no other option but to quit or to drop the store. So the reason I'm saying this is because you could actually run the Resin Lamp as a branded product. I'll give you an example. There's these book nooks that you place, in your shelf, on your shelf. These have been around for so long, guys. Probably since when I started, and they're considered, a saturated product. But I would argue there's a few people, few brands who are printing multiple six figures through this same saturated product. Why? Because they've actually taken this one extra mile to ignore the competition, just call themselves a brand, perform better than others. So they're not even marketing it to a different audience. They're just performing better in terms of marketing. There's always going to be someone who's performing the best. So if you're actually willing to be the best at marketing, at branding, and just being here for the long term, you're actually going to win. And this is actually one thing which I did with my first winner. It was nothing crazy, nothing custom, but I treated it as a branded product, and we did run it for a very long time. That was the main reason it worked, okay? So being the best at your marketing, at your branding, will make a product sell more than others, despite the fact that there's hundreds, if not thousands of competitors out there. So this is important for me to mention. So this book nook, till this day, is a winner. And there's pages with like over 300k followers. They're making bank because of this product. And if you were to ask anyone in the organic community, they all know about this product, but they wouldn't even join as a competitor because they're demotivated to join a saturated market. And here's one last thing about this. This guy has enough capital now to try new variants. He's going to have custom products which nobody else has. So that's how you eventually become, indestructible. So that's point one about brandability, is you need to be willing to be the best at one thing, okay? So it doesn't need to be unsaturated. It could be a saturated product. It's fine. Just be the best at the marketing. So we're just gonna say this. So you either be the best in a saturated market, or you create a new product, new variant of a proven concept product. So this is gonna be unsaturated, but this would require a proven concept and capital. Next point for brandable product is, this is the best in my opinion, is to run a product just like the Nook, and then you commission, like you start adding variants. And this is what I've seen people do the most. So I'm gonna keep it in the first point. This is where you create unsaturated products. So that's regarding the product aspect. Now, in terms of branding, how do you even figure out whether a product is brandable or not? So there's a few things. It doesn't need to be something fancy, but it needs to have high demand. You need to make sure your product actually has some sort of demand. So branding, all it does is it increases the perceived value to the customer. So it wouldn't work for any product to be a branded product. I'm gonna try to give you an example here of something that wouldn't cost a lot, but because of the way they marketed it, they made it appear like a brand, it sold. This is actually the first example came to my mind is, at the start of the year, 2026, we've seen these Disney-inspired products. It's like a ring, and we've seen like a necklace, and so on. So these products are just regular Disney fan products, and they probably cost like cents, dollars, like $1 to $2. But they're selling it for like 25, if not more. I think it's even more. The reason why these products work is literally because of how branded everything was about them. The marketing to the store. Everything was on point, and they actually turned it into a generic store. Well, by generic I mean not a one product store. That's not what they did. Instead, they had like a collection of different Disney inspired products, and they had great offers. So this was obviously a pump and dump product, but they made a very mediocre product turn out as a, potentially a winner, at least at the time. So obviously this was not a six-figure product, but I'm sure they did, a few tens of thousands through this very cheap-looking product. Same thing applies to this, the Disney heels. It's a regular, cheap-looking product, but the way they marketed it and the store was built around it, they made it sell a lot. This was actually a six-figure product over here. So that's just an example to show you it doesn't need to be a crazy, fancy-looking product. It could be something cheap, then you turn it into a branded product. We've seen this with rings as well, primarily. So take that into account when you're thinking about the product. What's like the long-term aspect to it? Can I bring new variants? I think that's the first thing you need to ask yourself. Can I bring new variants? If so, this is probably a good product to start with. All right. Now I've given you a, relatively detailed criteria to picking a product. Now, where do we even find them? So there's a few ways. The first one we're going to mention today, I'm going to keep the burner method till the end because that's what everyone knows about, right? Number one is going to be the AliExpress method. People have been calling this like a, like a low-key gold mine that nobody knows about. This has been something I've been doing for years, and I've actually been talking about for years. I don't think you should be relying on your burn account. You should actually just use a burn account to give you ideas and to sharpen your eye to what to look for when you're on AliExpress. So that's why this is considered more of an advanced method, because you're going to be exposed to thousands of products, right? But the way you decide which one's a winner is because you have this knowledge behind trying to guide you so that, 4 of them or something that would not have a proof of concept. But then the fifth one is actually, a pair of goggles which has a camera on top. Therefore, they're probably gonna win. They're a winner because we've seen in the past that this product down here, this product right here, where is it? This one has been a winner. The reason it was a winner, you could wear it and record POV. Same thing for the goggles. So this is how you should think about, the product selection process when you're at the moment. Sharpen your eye, gain knowledge through your burner research method, and then preferably have a list of competitors, whether they're your direct competitors or just winners. Like, make sure you have a list of winning stores. And then that way, not only will you be having these traits of a winning product in your mind the next time you're researching, but also the moment you want to make your website, which is a video I'm going to make soon, you will know what is a winning section or winning element to the store just by remembering that they had this. You could literally just pull up their store and not copy everything one by one, but instead take inspiration from one store, another store. It's like puzzle pieces, you put them together. So observation is important. So AliExpress is number one, but it requires a lot of experience to know what is a winner. Number two is Alibaba. I'll tell you what the difference is. So AliExpress already has everything you need, but Alibaba is better for custom products. So if you wanted, a custom resin lamp with something new, then I would go to Alibaba, talk to the manufacturer side, not the supplier side, and then inform them that, I want a new variant of the product. So this is for custom. And then number three is going to be the burner research method. This is not the last one though. There's actually a fourth one which is quite low key. Burner research, you create an account dedicated to finding dropshipping content. Again, even if you're not selecting a winner, like even if you have a winner, you still need to do this to gain ideas, to see what's winning in terms of trends and so on. The fourth one, I'm gonna have to give it a name because I've seen a lot of different names out there. We're gonna call it the authentic research method. Authentic research method. So this is where you try to find non-dropshipping content, and you would be surprised how often they would be reviewing products which with no intention to sell the product. And that way you could get inspired that this has a lot of demand, it's going viral. So not only do you take the format, but also the product, and then you run the product. This is actually one of the top strategies which a lot of people have done. I've seen it with my own eyes this Q4, the past Q4. We've seen it with the Christmas tree. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this video. I'm trying to make sure that I didn't miss anything for this bootcamp day. I think that's pretty much it for this video. We're gonna have a separate day for actually finding a winner. If this was helpful, subscribe, join my Discord. If you want to be part of the team, let me know on Discord as well by DMs. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next one.